What is up, Ravens flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. James and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I am James Haskell, along with my co-host Glenn Martin, and we are excited to talk about something that our friend of the show, Sarah Ellison, a well-known former Ravens employee, former Ravens editor, tweeted today, and that is the relatively long list of Ravens that are going into the last year of their contracts. This is really important because at this time, between now and training camp, I'm sure this is when agents are ramping up. Those conversations are being had with GMs because it's kind of an opportunity to take a breath before the season starts. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get into, highest priority guys, wish list guys that we see no way they're staying, all of the above. But before we do, take a second, hit the subscribe button. As we always say, if you want to support the channel, it's obviously free to subscribe. Give us a like, leave your comments. We love interacting with you guys, and check us out on all your podcast platforms. But Glenn, I'm going to run through this list here. I'm going to read it off, and that's where we'll start because, like I said, it's kind of extensive here. Mm-hmm. All right, so number one, tight end Mark Andrews.
Yep.
Number two, cornerback Anthony Averett. Number three, center Bradley Bozeman. Number four, defensive lineman Calais Campbell. Number five, safety Deshaun Elliott. Number six, outside linebacker Pernell McPhee. Number seven, fullback, tight end, H-back Patrick Ricard. Cornerback Jimmy Smith. Wide receiver Sammy Watkins. And defensive lineman Brandon Williams. So what we'll do, Glenn, is let's start with the first four. We got three young guys and one old guy. So that's Mark Andrews, Anthony Averett. Sorry. Bradley Bozeman and Calais Campbell.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about, of those four, where you break down your highest priority. I think I know where you're going, but where does your mind go right away?
Yeah, it's got to be Mark Andrews. It's got to be Mandrews. I mean, this is the safety blanket and the favorite target for the young phenom quarterback Lamar Jackson.
And the young phenom tight end.
Yeah, absolutely. And really what we see around the league, every year is when players get themselves in these contract years, which this is a contract year, especially these guys with expiring rookie deals, that's typically the year that we see their best foot forward. That's a year they want to show out and prove to not just the Ravens, but other potential teams that this is a guy you want to sign to a monster long-term deal. So Mark Andrews, I think, as good as he's been in his first few years as a Raven, I think he's going to be even better this year. I think this is the best we'll see from Mark Andrews. I mean, just look at the amount of work he's been putting in with Lamar Jackson on a one-on-one and also a group setting away from the Ravens. I think really points to the fact that this year he's going to explode. But so Mark Andrews to me is top priority, number one, even if you were telling me the whole list, but certainly in the group you gave me, Mark Andrews is top priority. Now, do you agree with me, first of all? And if you do agree with me, I want to ask you about Bradley Bozeman because he's been a fantastic player here since he's been here. He's making the change from left guard where he's been successful back to his home position where he feels most comfortable at in the center position. We saw a favorite center leave Baltimore a few years ago and become the highest paid in Tampa in Ryan Jansen, the big redhead, one of the guys that we feel like kind of got away, as a guy we would have liked to have. Could Bradley Bozeman price himself out of Baltimore next season? Similarly, we saw like Ryan Jansen, if he has a fantastic year at center.
There is no doubt in my mind that is a possible scenario. In fact, what I was going to say before you finish your question, I was kind of thinking in my mind while also trying to listen before, prepping some ammunition, is that I think Bradley said it. This is his natural position. I think based on the fact that he's shown he can be a reliable left guard, and a starting left guard on a lot of teams. And now that he's going to his natural position, I think this year he makes himself a ton of money. I think he has his best year this year, and certainly could price himself out as being, an extremely, highly paid, one of the highest paid centers in the league. So that is a concern of mine. I think we will get Bradley Bozeman's best year ever. So that in a contract year, Ravens they'll just redraft. They have confidence in their, in their ability to draft. And and fill in those guys. So yeah, I see it as a concern of mine. I like Bradley Bozeman a lot. I like him as a person, like him as a player. He just loves football, and I really like that about him. He's an intelligent football player. He's a gritty guy, really physical. So he's a Raven. It would hurt to see him go as well. But I certainly agree with you that one, Mark Andrews is the highest priority, but two, Bradley Bozeman is number 2 on that list.
Yep.
And I could totally see him, because we're going to talk about that. If there's any people that could be priced out of this list? And I certainly say that, he would be one, if not the number 2 person on that list in my mind, as far as people being priced out. But certainly, going back to those first 4, I also think that Calais Campbell, don't you think this is the last ride?
I think
it feels
so.
like that to me.
Yeah, it does. It feels
based on last year.
Yeah, and really, the season's even longer now. It's 17 games, and he's getting older. He's had some injury issues over the last couple years, and that's just that Father Time is undefeated for a reason.
And don't you think they would have re-upped? They would have done, because I know he took a pay cut.
Yeah,
him and Brandon was just straight up pay cut. But don't you think if he knew he was going to play longer, they would have said, all right, well, let's do some restructuring to give you some more guaranteed money, but lower your cap hit this year. They would have done it. I think they would have attacked it another way. Right.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think if he came to the Ravens, or if through his agent came to the Ravens and said, I plan on playing for at least another 3 years, I definitely think there could have been an extension rather than just a pay cut, basically, is what he ended up doing. So absolutely. And Anthony Averett, I think, is an interesting one too, because he's shown himself to be a fantastic young player, a guy that
came on last year.
Yeah, and when Marlon was forced to move inside and help out there after some injuries, he played a lot of snaps at the outside corner spot and played pretty darn well. Now,
and isn't it, sorry to cut you off there, but isn't it also that the chunk of Marcus Peters guaranteed money is up at the end of this season, to where, obviously the Ravens are going to want to hold on to him, but there's an intersection there that also exists between, how long the Ravens want Marcus Peters at how much money he wants, because they're not going to overpay. And, he's probably going to want to re-up at the end of next year. And then obviously Averett's up. They could choose to say, you know what, we'll take the utility guy that obviously he's not going to be Marcus Peters, but we'll take this guy, pay him at an average rate instead of paying a top dollar for Peters. Something like that could occur, right?
That would be interesting. I think I would be pretty surprised to see, because Peters is still a young guy, and really, as rocky as his first few years were, because they were definitely rocky. When you look at all the fact that he was so ultra productive, but yet was moved around an awful lot, shows you that there were some issues, whether it was in the locker room or wherever those issues were. A guy that productive at that premium of a position isn't typically moved as often as he was moved. So obviously there were some issues. So he may have a reputation around the league, Jimbo, that other coaches don't want to take on that kind of personality. Now, since he's been in Baltimore, he's been fantastic. He's been ultra productive, as well as, not the distraction that some people were thinking he might be when he was first traded for. And kind of the distraction. I remember we had a Kansas City, I can't remember who it was, but a guy who covers Kansas City for the local media there. And he mentioned that Marcus Peters had some hardships there. He had some trouble getting along with some teammates, some coaches, kind of rubbed people the wrong way. We haven't seen that in Baltimore, but so I think that could lower his market value and keep him in Baltimore, especially when you look at the level of success him and Marlon have had as a tandem.
Unless the Raiders come calling.
Yeah, you never do know with teams like the Raiders. You never absolutely know there. But I think he is a scheme guy. I think he benefits and plays his best when he's in a scheme like the Ravens have here in Baltimore.
Doesn't he remind you of a modern day Aqib Talib type?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very similar. Both man corners, both got that toughness about them.
He was just bigger, really, I think was, the biggest
right. And it's really hard to point to anyone that has the similar ball skills of Marcus Peters. That guy's kind of on a land of his own.
Statistically, exactly. It's ridiculous.
There's no one at that position that's even come close in this short period of time. So I think Anthony Averett, as good as he's been for the Ravens, I think
he's on his way out.
Yeah, I think because I could see a team, it's such a valuable position. I think I could see a team, giving him a little bit more money than the Ravens are willing. So I think,
and
Anthony
then also
Averett,
giving him an opportunity to start, right? Because if you said, if he really wants to get out there, he could go sign a 2-year deal for a team that's going to give him a chance to fight for that outside corner position that he wants, prove his worth. and re-up, you know,
because he's not going to be unless there's an injury, he ain't starting on the outside for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, he's not even the top 3 because you got Jimmy, even if Peters or Marlin go down, and I'm not putting Averett in over Jimmy any day of the week, and definitely not on Sunday.
No, can't do it. And so right now it looks like we expect Mark Andrews to be back, right?
I mean, you got to retain Andrews at all costs. I mean, you can't go crazy, but
right, exactly. Yeah, no, I agree with you. We expect Averett to price himself out. I think it's a long shot to come back because I think you're right. I think it's not just the money, it's the opportunity that he'd be getting elsewhere that would be attractive. Bradley Bozeman, sounds like we're kind of iffy on him because, look, you want to pay your good young draftees. You want to pay your guys that you draft and you want to keep them here in Baltimore. But there is a limit, and there's teams that will overspend at those positions that they find value at. And if a team, and also let's mention that he was a Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. This guy has a fantastic anti-bullying campaign that him and his wife do. So he's going to be an instant impact in your community. Yep. He showed that he can play left guard, and now he's about to show he can play center. Of course, he did so in Alabama. So he's versatile. I mean, it's the kind of guy you definitely want in front of microphones if you're an organization because he's fantastic in that regard. So really, he checks like every box: versatility, community check, teammate check, media guy check, he
durability.
Durability. Yeah, he really checks every box. So I think that one is going to be. I put that one at 50-50 right now. I'm not really sure. Calais Campbell, I think we both agree this is probably his last year here. So let's get into the next part of this list, Jimbo. I'm going to read them off to you, and I'm going to shoot you a question. We got safety, Deshaun Elliott. Interesting one there, the Joker. Then we got outside linebacker, the old guard, Pernell McPhee. We got fullback, Pat Ricard. That could get interesting. Cornerback, Jimmy Smith, one of maybe the vet. Him and Sam Cook are the vets, right? The vets of vets. And then Brandon Williams, defensive lineman. That's going to be an interesting one. And then wide receiver Sammy Watkins, who is quickly gaining chemistry with Lamar Jackson and impressing Lamar Jackson, among others. So let me start here. Deshaun Elliott is an interesting case for me because he was behind some guys, had some injury issues when he came out. People were worried this year. They're going, man, what's he going to do? Is he going to be able to fill the shoes of Earl Thomas?
Right.
Is he going to be able to stay healthy for a full season? He kind of checked both of those boxes, Jimbo, as well as laying some wood out there and turning some heads. So when you look at Deshaun Elliott going into his final year, what are your thoughts on his possibility of coming back?
Yeah, I think they're low. I think they're low because I think he, just like Bradley, is going to have the best season of his career in a contract year. And usually what that means is you're priced out of the Ravens equation. I mean, unless you're a quarterback or, considered a pillar of I mean, there were years, you remember this, there were years where we thought Ray Lewis was going to walk. Oof. You get a little nervous, right? You're thinking, the Cowboys sniffing around. Yeah, it's like, come on, Ray. But the Ravens don't bend for the most part, right?
No.
And so, yeah, I think that Deshaun Elliott is going to impact the game differently than last year. I think he's going to have more plays on the ball. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to feel looser. I think he's going to have a better grasp on the defense and feel like he can be more rangy. I think he's going to be given more responsibility. And so I think his scope of what he can do and what will be on display will be much larger this year than it was last year, only adding to his value. Because I think that's what's missing right now as far as NFL tape for him, is his ability to make plays on the ball. And I think that this year he's going to be playing faster and not thinking and reacting more. And you'll see more of what he did at Texas. And he made a lot of plays on the ball. So I think that, I mentioned it before with Bradley, I think he's the same. I think there's a chance they both just price themselves out. A team like the Jags or, someone else comes calling and has a ton of cap space and they yank him. Mm-hmm. And they take him from us. And he has an opportunity to be the lead dog in the backfield, right? Or not in the backfield, in the secondary. Yeah.
And become a veteran and show other guys what it is to play like a Raven on other teams. But
right.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about him because it showed when we saw the press conferences, Eric DeCosta, John Harbaugh, they speak so glowingly of Chuck Clark. I mean, I think Eric DeCosta called him the heartbeat of their defense. I don't see him going anywhere. I don't see you just letting the heartbeat go. So
right.
It would really surprise me to see them pay both safeties. And I think
what don't you think some of this is also, it's funny, we're talking about undrafted guy. We just had we just had Landry on the show from TCU, because I already feel like there's a chance that our number 3 safety breaking camp could be our Darius Washington.
Could be Stevens.
Right. Right. So there's a lot
of.
So I guess what I'm saying is it depends on how Stevens and Washington, how their play, how they look as far as how far along they are, and how comfortable they feel or concerned they feel in whether or not they can let Deshaun go.
No doubt. I mean, that's a big indicator. If they don't see much from those young guys behind them and they feel like, well,
they're in a bind at this point.
Yeah, we got to pay this guy unless we want to just roll the dice and hope we can find a replacement in the draft or in free agency, which, the Ravens' history in free agency, typically if it's a one big fish out there, then somebody else overpays and gets them over us. So, man, that's going to be a tough one. So watch out to see what kind of year, it's one of those things where, man, we're rooting like heck for Deshaun to have a big year. But every time he makes a play, in the back of my mind, I'm going to be thinking, yep, exactly. He's going to be.
Now, what about Patrick Ricard? Because a lot of people are saying that Ben Mason is coming in to be his replacement. It's funny that we're talking about fullback and fullback competition, 2021 football, but this is Ravens football. So, of course, we're talking about it. But I see them, honestly, remember in school, in elementary school, you used to do the Venn diagrams?
Oh, yeah.
The 2 circles, and there was the slice in the middle. Like, that's how I see them. I don't think they're a 1-for-1 replacement.
Gotcha.
I think that there are things that Ricard can do that Ben Mason won't be as good at, and vice versa. Like, I think Ben Mason is already probably a better route runner. Probably, like, if you ask him to, run a seam route, he's going to
more athleticism, yeah.
Yeah, he's probably quicker, more athletic, in and out of breaks and things like that. But the thing that makes Pat rare is that he's at his size, he's still extremely athletic, and that's where he almost is the size of. I mean, people always want. I mean, I think he's easily 310 pounds.
Yeah,
that's an extra lineman. That's literally like Ben Bredesen, who we bring in as an extra lineman at fullback every single play, right? Moving the way that he does, and so. It's really rare. I don't know if Ben Mason is just going to come in and replace Ricard. I don't know if it'll be that easy.
Do you think the coaches want him to do that?
Yeah, that's the other thing too. I don't think so. I don't think that's the plan. I think Ben Mason will have his role in the red zone as far as, some deception and whether or not he's going to be the lead blocker, whether or not they're going to give him the ball. Because we know that's one thing that they're not going to do with Ricard anymore after he, did a tornado spin and kicked the ball backwards like 80 yards. It's like goodness gracious, that was a ridiculous play.
Mm-hmm.
And the coach was thinking, yep, take that one right out of the playbook, right?
Yep.
But I think with Ben Mason, there's an opportunity for him to do that. I think there's an opportunity for him to run routes out of the tight end position, out of the backfield as a fullback. I know Pat already does that, but more like upfield routes instead of just like, the
flat
little
routes.
Yeah, exactly. And so some things like that. But I don't think that they signed up for him to replace Pat. So I don't think Pat is in as much trouble as people might think. I think that they can find a way to afford him, unless, once again, I can see the Raiders calling, right? Like, my mind always goes to the Raiders. I don't know why, but like I can see them calling, like, we want him because he's tough, and they give him just some ridiculous contract like Juszczyk got from the Niners.
Yeah, I think it comes down to a couple things. It comes down to what's the market out there for a 310-pound fullback,
right,
when we all know that there's only a handful of teams that still carry a fullback, much less one at record-breaking size. And then also Eric DaCosta, or as Lamar has coined him, every dollar counts. How much does every dollar truly count? Because if they see in practice that Ben Mason can do some of these things, which he certainly has the mentality. I mean, when Ben Mason comes out, he says he wants to prove he's the baddest dude on the field. He wanted to break the bench press record. I mean, this guy has an intensity about him that I think that if he shows he can do some of those things, and the coaching staff can look around and say, well, you know what? While we love Pat, Ben could develop into the same type of, do the same type of things, plus a couple other things. Maybe we can, save a couple pennies, let Pat go, and then we might be able to sign a Bradley Bozeman because of the savings. That's the only thing it comes down to is what's his market. Is there a bit, because maybe he goes out there and the agent comes back and says, there's like one other team, two other teams that want to take a run at us, but do you want to be happy? You
got to move. Do
you want to do all that for a couple dollars more, or do you
and then go play for a potential loser, right? Like losing.
There's that too, exactly. So I think that one's an interesting case. I would love to see Project Pat stay here in Baltimore because we love. I mean, what a great story he was coming out of Maine. As a D lineman and ends up being a Pro Bowl fullback. I mean, it's so cool. And man, I tell you what, I know he doesn't do a ton of routes up the seam, but man, when they show a corner having to tackle that dude after he caught a pass in the flat, they look terrified. I mean, this guy just wants to run through you. So
and that's why I think that there's a chance that he even though Ben Mason can do some of the things, that I don't know how much Pat's value will diminish, only because I really think he's in rare air based on his athleticism, size, and like coordination, right? Like, even though Ben Mason might be a good fullback, like you said, Pat is so big. Mm-hmm. It's so rare. I mean, his legs are tree trunks. It's just ridiculous. Where, like, I mean, if you pulled up Mike Allstott, he's like the poster of fullbacks. I'm sure that I would be willing to bet that Pat has at least 30 pounds on him.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I'm just saying that Pat is just a rare football player to me, to where if anybody could make it work with both of them, certainly it would be the Ravens. But I also understand, too, that when Lamar gets that deal, you want to keep a guy like Bradley around, it might come to getting rid of Patrick Ricard. But I wouldn't be so quick to do it either, because he's a big part of that run game.
No doubt about it. Absolutely. And a guy that you can confidently expect to block a D lineman, and you can feel good about it. Whereas who else can do that? So I agree with you there.
Now let's run through a couple of these older guys, because I think Pernell McPhee, unless he Pernell McPhee will be on 1-year deals the rest of his career. I don't know how much longer he's going to go. Right. If he has another healthy season, he'll get paid whatever he got paid this year, most likely. And then sign another 1-year deal. So we'll say, it comes down to health there. But I don't think like Lamar's contract or even Bozeman's contract would really impact a guy like Pernell McPhee, because it's so little. But it really comes Jimmy, Sammy, and Brandon. We'll do Jimmy and Brandon first, because they're longer-term Ravens. Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting that they never restructured Brandon's deal, because I think Jimmy's closer to retirement based on injury history. Than Brandon, where, like, I get it that Jimmy's, on a 1-year deal and he's getting paid well, because at the end of the day, he won't be forced out. But I can see Jimmy Smith just hanging him up, because he's like, you know what? I got some kids. I've made plenty of money. Like, I've had some injury history, but I'm a Super Bowl champion. I'm being fine with where he's at in his life.
Yeah. And also, I think the result of this season will impact their decision-making as well. I think if the Ravens do the best they can and go and win a Super Bowl, then I think he'd be much more likely to be okay with hanging them up. Now, if they're this close and come up just shy in the AFC Championship, there's also a shot he might want to come back and give it one more go at it. So I think that's going to be a tough one. But either way, I don't think he's a 1-year guy now. He's a 1 year from this point on, and maybe they mask it as a 2-year deal with really only 1 year's worth of guarantees. But whatever it is, he's a 1-year guy from here on out. And I think, like you mentioned, he sacrificed a lot of time away from his family, and maybe he wants to go, spend more time with them. Who knows? Yeah. But I think the decision will be up to Jimmy Smith, because I don't think he'll be too expensive. And I think as long as he wants to stay in Baltimore, the Ravens will find a way to squeeze his cap number onto the team. So now, I think it's up to Jimmy.
Now, with Brandon, same thing with Calais, to where, like, I thought that they were going to restructure the deal. I thought that was more likely with Brandon, because he's younger. Calais is 35, turning 34. Brandon is only 32. So he's and I think at his position, you said it before, he can play for a while. Yeah. So it was interesting to me that they didn't, dole out some more guaranteed money, add some years onto that, kick the can down the road, and create some more cap space this year. So that's going to be interesting to see. Maybe they feel like they've got, Broderick Washington there. You've got obviously Metabike. Once again, he's not a Brandon Williams type. So how are you feeling about Brandon Williams being a Raven after the season, when they didn't get the extension done and they just opted for the pay cut? It made me think that this is his last year.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think Brandon Williams is probably playing his final season in Baltimore, only because I think someone else will still find enough value in him that he'll price himself out. I think is
there any way he does the same thing and he just hangs it up? I mean, or is he too young, you think?
I think he's too young. Yeah, he's too young, and he's got an opportunity to still make millions of dollars.
Yeah.
You can't pass up that kind of opportunity unless the injuries stack up too much. I mean, he's had a couple here and there. and there could be one that he just says, you know what, I'm done rehabbing from injuries. I'm just
Mhm.
done being in the training room. Now he hasn't been riddled with injuries, but he has had some throughout. So Brandon Williams would be tough for me to watch Lee because we love Big Baby. I mean, the charisma he brings, nothing's like having a peek into the locker room after a Ravens win and seeing Big Baby dancing, doing a handstand. I mean, this guy is a true, I mean, he's just the perfect guy to have in the locker room to keep things light, keep guys, because it's such an intense sport. It's such a, every moment is such high pressure. To have a guy like him to keep it light and mix it up, as well as being a really good player and one of the better run stuffers in all of football. That's what worries me. When we see him out of the lineup, teams have a lot of success on the ground against us. So until they can find a guy, like you mentioned, that is a replacement for him, because as high as we are on Metabike, he's not that guy. He's not a block eater where he takes on two, holds his ground, and allows other guys to make the play, and doesn't allow the offensive lineman to reset that line of scrimmage and push him back.
And Broderick Washington's looked the same 10th grade, so I don't know if he's quite the physical specimen. While Brandon Williams got the belly on him, got the arms to go with it. He's an extremely
there's not many that are
strong man. And you're talking about gobbling up blocks. Broderick Washington,
I don't know athleticism. I mean, I know he's not a get to the quarterback guy, but this guy can walk 100 yards on his hands.
And he is certainly a reset the line of scrimmage guy.
Oh, there's no doubt about it.
I mean, and I don't know if Broderick Washington is pushing back anything but donuts right now. So,
oh my goodness, poor Broderick. You always on
get in the weight room, bro. There's no excuses. Get in the weight room. If I can do it, you can do it. All right.
Yeah, I can't tell anyone else to get in the weight room. That's not an area.
But if it were your job and millions of dollars depended on it,
look, I'm sure he's in there.
I hope so.
I'm sure he's in there, Jimbo. I agree with you. He needs to trim off a couple of baby fat.
Oh, he
pounds.
can keep it on, but I just want to see more out of the arms and the shoulders. He can keep on all the fat he wants.
Okay, all right.
Like Brandon. That's what I'm saying. Brandon he's a big kid, but you can see it when Brandon gets in a 3-point stance. His tricep is screaming.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't see any of that out of Broderick Washington. That concerns me.
Okay.
You're in the NFL now.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. All right. So yeah, Brandon Williams, I guess we're kind of worried about him. This might be his final ride.
Because it could be a painful year that following year, like you're saying, where they're like, oh, we gotta go with Broderick because we can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just feel like they're gonna put the line down and say Brandon's gonna get paid, like you said, by someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna.
Are you ready to have Calais and Brandon leave at the same time? That's two big guys and big holes in the front end of your defense.
But do you think that Brandon and the Ravens, I feel like if there's a duo that can find a way to get it done, it just was odd to me that they didn't get an extension done. Yeah. Wasn't it odd to you?
Great pay cut, because they could have gotten that cap relief with an extension, and instead they did not even. I mean, I assume if it was offered, then he probably would have signed it rather than signing a pay cut. So to me, it tells me it wasn't even offered. And that makes me thinking. Makes me think this could be his last year, but you never know. I mean, he's a hometown guy as far as this is where he was drafted, and you never know. They might end up finding a way to make it work, because while there is a market for a guy like him, it's not like crazy money wise. It's not insane for a run stuffer, even though it's important. I mean, you look around the AFC. Imagine if we didn't have Brandon Williams in last year's playoff game against the Tennessee Titans. I don't think
different ball game, different outcome.
Exactly, no doubt about it. So he changes the game.
Let's wrap it up this way then. We got the full list. Now, regardless of situation and salary cap, if you had to just do priority, like who you want back, let's line these up. Because I think number one for you is Mark Andrews.
Yep, Andrews number one.
Same thing for me. Now, where do you fall number two? Do you go right to Bradley Bozeman, or do you go to Jimmy or even Brandon?
I mean, I think Deshaun might be above both of them. I mean, to me, I think it's got to be Bradley because of the versatility and because we like to build in the trenches here, Jimbo.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm with you, number two. I'm gonna be honest with you. We might part ways, number three. I think Deshaun Elliott's gonna have a really good season, but I think there's a lot of value in Brandon Williams for the next 2 to 3 years till he's like 35. And I think he's a unique player. So for me, priority wise, not likelihood, but for me, Brandon Williams, number three.
And we didn't talk much about this guy, in fact, at all. Sammy Watkins.
Oh, shoot, yeah.
He could with a breakout season as a Raven, coming back to that Greg Roman offense.
Yeah, move his way up this list real quick, right?
Absolutely, because he's still a young man. What's he, 27?
27 years young.
A young man who certainly is looking to hit a bigger payday than he did this season. I think there's a shot he could find his way up higher, but I can't really put him up there yet until I see it. I know I'm getting a lot of excitement out of camp about him, but for me, I got to put Elliott here because of the fact that he plays so many snaps. And we didn't see the playmaking ability, we still saw him impacting the game.
Yep.
We saw that big hit on Derrick Henry that really just fired up the whole team and the fan base. So I'm going to put Deshaun Elliott as my number 3 of importance.
All right. So, so those are our top 3.
Who's your guaranteed gone? Because is Averett guaranteed gone?
That's not retiring, right? Because my guaranteed gone is Calais Campbell.
All right, so Calais is guaranteed. What about Purnell? Is he guaranteed gone?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think he's a guaranteed gone because I think he just re-ups. If he has a good season, stays healthy, wants to play, the Ravens bring him back like that. Same deal, sure, no problem. We'll just re-up it.
Especially if they don't like what they see out of their young outside linebackers in Adafe.
And John is all about culture. They'll pay him just to keep the culture going.
Yeah, just to keep that play like a Raven spirit around.
But I guess the guarantee gone for me, other than Calais, is going to be Anthony Averett. Anthony Averett is going to be the guarantee gone. But the person I'd put behind that in likelihood for me would be Deshaun Elliott. Because I think if they had to pay Elliott or Bradley, if it came down to that, I think the money's going to Bradley. So that's kind of how I see that shaking out. And Bradley's going to make more money, most likely.
Oh, there's no doubt.
What about you? Who's your guarantee gone?
Guaranteed gone is, I got 3 on my list. I got Calais. I got McPhee on there also. Only because I think he's
end of the road?
older. Yeah, he's getting older. And, it's time to bring some young guys in. I love what he did. I think he's here just this year to bring Adafe and bring who's the Notre Dame kid? Hayes, along and make sure they know what it is to play like a Raven. And I think Anthony Averett, because you mentioned it's the opportunity, more so than even the money, because I think the market isn't going to be crazy for him unless there's some injuries and force him into a big role. I don't think he's going to have a huge money market, but just the fact that he knows when he looks up at that depth chart, Marlon isn't going anywhere, and as long as Marcus Peters here, he ain't going nowhere.
Right.
So
yeah.
I think Averett's gone, McPhee and Calais Campbell. Those are my 3 most likely to be gone.
Well, give us your guaranteed gones. Give us your priority list. Give us who you think's getting priced out, who you're concerned about, who you want to keep. All the above in the comments below. We'll be sure to interact with you guys. And this is what I will say: if you have 3 guaranteed gones and you get them all right, we will send you a shirt if you are in the United States or Canada. Unfortunately, if you're not, we can't do that. But we will go back. Obviously, it'll be a year later. We will go back and send you a shirt. So a little competition on the line, ladies and gentlemen.
There we go.
3 guaranteed gones. Glenn named us 3. And so give us your 3. If they are right, getting a shirt, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go. Just got to send us put a size in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly we can connect and DM and things like that for address and make sure we get you the right stuff. Yep. But let us know in the comments below and we'll talk to you guys.